She's the epitome of, I don't understand how she does it. She's getting her PhD. She runs a highly successful software engineering business where I was amazed, it grew from like 15 to 120 employees, and probably even more than that because she just got a contract from KSC on their new Constellation program, which is really awesome. And she has 2 small children, 4 and 6, which I have 5.5-5-year-old twins, and so I can just relate. There's no way I could run a multi-million-dollar company with them. So she's going to talk to us a little bit about how you balance that business and family.
Thank you. Oh, geez, sorry. Is this thing on? Okay. You can hear me, I assume. Yeah, okay. Yeah, my name's Carol. Loud enough?
No, I'm trying to. It's not on.
It's not on?
Yeah, the light's not on.
Yep.
There you go.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, yes, I'm Carol Craig, and President, CEO of Craig Technologies. We do software engineering, information technology for government and commercial customers. A little louder? I can talk louder if you need me to, too. I have that. Okay. We have approximately now almost 170 employees, actually, throughout the United States. But our headquarters is here in Cape Canaveral. Headquarters kind of followed me wherever I went, and that's thanks to the SBA, my man back there. But anyway, so again, Don asked me to talk about balancing business and family, and I kind of had to stop. That's a really tough one, actually. One, because everybody's family, every situation is completely different. So I may give you recommendations and suggestions that do not apply, and it's a dynamic thing. It's constantly changing. And the other thing is I kind of stopped and I thought, am I balancing family and business? I never really thought about it. And I started thinking, and if I'm doing it, am I doing it right? And I did, and I thought, okay, yeah, I guess I am, because I still have a family. I'm able to do these things. Life is still good. And so then I kind of stepped back and okay, what are some factors, tips, what could I narrow it down to maybe 5 that I could just talk about? And that's what I've got up there. And again, a little background on myself as well. I started the company just as an independent consultant. My background is as an engineer, and then I joined the Navy and flew for a while, met my husband, and I ended up getting out of it because of a bad knee, so service-disabled veteran. And at that point, I kind of was like, okay, what do I do now? I want to, follow my husband around, but I also want to do my engineering and do, my own thing. And so I decided to go ahead and incorporate and start my own business. And so I started as a one-woman show, and I did some consulting, and then there was more and more business, and I brought in some friends, hey, can you help me out? And it started to snowball, and I was kind of looking at it going, wow, this is like almost a real business at this point, It's like, okay, this is cool, we can do this. And then I started looking more into the SBA and saw a lot of the advantages and all the programs for minorities. My background is I'm Cuban, woman-owned, service-disabled veteran, all these other things. So I made the decision to start growing this business. And again, when I started, I was single, 2 of us. My husband flew for the Navy as well, went on cruise, stuff like that. And so we're double income, the dinks, double income, no kids kind of thing. So I started there, and then as I grew, obviously, you enter in the children into the equation, and enter in, a husband who gets out of the Navy early, decides to, instead of retiring, get out at like 16 and a half years. A lot of things changing, and all of that, puts some stresses and, concerns on your life as you're building your business. And then also, adding to that, my firstborn son, only son, firstborn child, was born with a rare genetic disorder. So this was... Is it me? This is, again, going from, the dual income, working 80-some hours a week, and, we do what we want, to having a child, and then add to that a severe genetic disorder. And so put all that into it, it's a challenge. And so that's kind of what I'm going to talk about, is how do you deal with those challenges, and what maybe my words of wisdom might be in dealing with that. So go ahead and go on there. No regrets. That's my biggest one. No regrets means different things to different people. I was talking to my husband, and he thinks of no regrets more like from a real professional business standpoint, make a decision and don't worry about it, don't change that decision. But my no regrets kind of is from more of a female perspective or a mother perspective. I always thought, if anything ever happened to my children, I don't want to have to go back and think, if only I had done this, if only I had locked the door that goes out to the pool. If only I had made that seatbelt a little bit tighter. So that's my kind of no regrets. And so I guess when I say no regrets, I mean, like, if you're feeling guilty because you haven't spent time with your daughter or your son, then you need to spend time with your daughter or your son. You never want to go back and think, I should have done this, and oh great, I have this great successful business, but you know what? She's now 6 years old, and I just didn't really give everything I could have. So make those decisions. Prioritization, it is difficult. You just got to accept that it's going to be a difficult task, and that's okay. And for me, I go on my instinct. Like I said, just listen to yourself. If you know what's right, and you'll do what's right. One of my decisions was not to travel. So if you can imagine, I was talking with a male CEO about that whole thing. He went, "You don't travel? You own this company and you don't travel?" I'm like, well, no, when I do travel, I take my whole family with me. And I guess one of the abstracts in there, I kind of said one of the things that makes a woman a good CEO and a leader is the same thing that won't let her step away from the family. And it's that control freak kind of thing, and that's what it is in me. I want to be with my kids. I want to be a part of their lives and still be in control. So that means I don't go off and do the week trips in D.C. And if there's, I find any ways that I can, if I can do a call in, or I can focus my business in an area where I'm at. So again, I have no regrets on that. And maybe I could have grown this business even faster and even more, and be doing more than we are. That's a decision I made, and I'm happy with it. And I think that's something to think about and whether you have had your business going and you have kids, or you're thinking about starting that business after you already have kids. Just remember that. Make sure no regrets. What ifs? That's the same thing. If you keep, you're indecisive and I don't know. Again, just go with that gut instinct, and I pretty much guarantee you'll be right. There is a way to do it. You shouldn't have to. The other thing, I guess, when you think about balancing family, is it an even kind of thing? And later on, I say, I want to make sure you spend as much time. It's really not even. It's really, and it's your decision how you want it to go. And I probably almost do a little more family. That's just my choice. That's also what we've done with the business. Our motto: family, integrity, passion, loyalty. Family's number one. And that's how we treat our employees, and that's also just the culture that we want our employees to feel, that, your family is number one. That's the reason you're here, is because you're family. And so that's what's important. So don't what if yourself, just go with it. Tough calls, be honest, explain. Yeah. One of the things very honest, and I'm honest with customers, with other companies, with employees. If something comes up and I'm making a choice, you know what, I can't be up there at this kickoff meeting for this contract, I'm going to tell them why. And I'm going to tell them it's because my son started first grade and I want to be there and I want to watch him go and they look all cute and all that. And I'm honest with that. I'm professional about it, but I'm honest about it. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to be honest, open. Don't be embarrassed that you are making that decision that family is important. And one of the things with women, there's a big difference, I think, with a female CEO and a male CEO, and it's because we can't let go. We still have all those other family type of responsibilities and duties, and that's our choice. I still do. I don't cook. I'll say that one. That's one thing. I don't cook. My husband cooks, so I'm very blessed there. But I still do the laundry. I still clean. I'm still the one that does all the doctor's appointments. Especially with my son, I like to be there and, again, being in control and being the one that knows the research and what can be done to help him and all that. I want to be there, and so all of that stuff does not go away. And I'm not stereotyping. I'm not, picking on men. It's just kind of the way things are. And not all male CEOs are like that, but most of them are in that situation where they have that luxury of working all day, and then they come home and, that's it. And they, and they're not taken care of, but it's not this whole juggling even during the day, because that's a lot of what it is. Next one. Second one, allow yourself. Now, this seems like a no-brainer, right? Allow yourself, allow yourself what? Well, allow yourself a workout in the middle of the day, lunch with your husband, lunch with the kids, whatever. I'm very bad at this, actually. And this is your time. Doing things, no kidding, just for me is very difficult. I almost showed up with the unibrow going, because it had been like 3 months since I'd actually gone into a salon and had the hair done and all that kind of thing. I thought, I can't show up looking all ragged if, I'm sitting here preaching about your time. But it's true. Priorities get in the way. And I'd rather, I want to go do lunch with my kids, or I've got a new contract and I've been interviewing and trying to get people going. But you got to stop. You just got to take a deep breath. And it kind of rejuvenated me. And I'd kind of forgotten it. When I go to the salon, I don't get a signal in there on my Palm Pilot, which is really cool. So for 3 hours I sat there and did absolutely nothing. And I walked out there just like, oh, and the world did not fall apart. Craig Technologies is still in business, and that's going to come down to my last one, which jump a little ahead. It says, "Did anybody die?" So that's the motto that's going to go behind my desk some days. Did anybody die? But anyway, so make time for yourself. Again, sounds like a no-brainer, but it doesn't happen. Everything moves quickly, and you forget. And no regrets. Again, no regrets. You never want to look back and think, why didn't I? And so if you're thinking about that going forward, you won't let that happen. Okay, next. Be flexible. Changing your mind. This is something, shouldn't bring up my husband, but I will. This is something with my husband that we've kind of fought back and forth. I changed my mind. And that would bug him. But you said, whatever, but I've changed my mind. And I'm not an indecisive person, but you have to be flexible, and especially when you're dealing with family and business and things that come up. And it's hard to balance. I don't want to be unprofessional because I just canceled a meeting with, the CEO of another company or something because my son got sick. But you have to be flexible, and you have to be okay with that. And again, be honest. The communication, letting people know, employees, if something happens. But you're taking that back. As a CEO, you're accepting that the same thing's going to happen with your employees. You have to be flexible with them. If something happens, and especially tied to family, you kind of have to roll with that and you have to know that. But that's okay. Rigidity is a weakness, vice, changing your mind, that kind of thing. Because again, I've just seen a lot where it seems that, changing your mind or going back and forth is looked at as wishy-washy. Well, it's not necessarily. So rigidity is the weakness, not the flexibility. Okay. This is the 50%. Spend as much time with your family as you do with your business. I think that's the minimum, at least for me, and I think for most women. I think men probably should do that as well, but they don't, and so we can work on them for that. But and if the balance tips, if it shifts, that's great. That's even better. Again, you're going to give up some things. You're going to maybe give up, that extra contract that you might have gotten, if you had spent more time. But you know what? When it comes down to it in the long run, no regrets. That's okay. We all know this. You don't have to say this. Women are multitaskers. So you can do it. It is intimidating, the balancing the family and everything, but we know we're multitaskers, and most of us are very good multitaskers. One of the things I'm not so good at, and the reason I kind of drop it off, is the phone, because I can't multitask on the phone. Because one of the things that is really unprofessional is if you're talking on the phone and you're being professional, and all of a sudden you just stop because you just saw an email and you start answering your email. That's not a good thing. So what I do most of the time is my phone is gone. So my cell phone, I won't answer my work phone. But if you email me, you'll get an email right away. Because I can be emailing and writing a proposal and looking at Jillian, my daughter's little drawing that she's come up to show me, all at the same time. The phone doesn't work. But so we are multitaskers. We need to use that to our benefit, and you can do it. That's what's really going to help you balance everything. Quality time is any time. That, again, seems like a no-brainer, but quality time is if you're with your child, if your kids are at home and they're playing and you've got your laptop and you're just sitting near them, it's quality time. You don't have to feel like you're being, I'm not giving you 100% of my time. Now, I would say if my daughter comes up to me and she doesn't touch me, she'll just, mommy, and I've gotten where, because I work at home a lot, I've tuned her out, and she'd get really upset. So I finally said, you know what, it's my fault. If you come up to me and you're trying to get my attention, just tap me and say, excuse me, mommy. And so that's our signal, and that's what she does. She'll tap me and say, excuse me, mommy, and then I know 100%. And then I'm looking her in the eyes. Because you wouldn't sit there talking to a customer on your BlackBerry, and listening to him, because that wouldn't be polite and that wouldn't be professional. You don't want to do the same thing to your family. You don't want to be, when someone's talking to you, if you're on your, okay, stop doing that. If you're on your laptop and they're talking to you, you still have to make sure that you're focusing and showing them, yeah, you're important. I'm not choosing one over the other. But again, anytime. We have the wireless at our house. That I have a couple of them so that I can get any point, and I can watch my kids swim, and I can be on my laptop, and I can be out in the garage doing something. And so any time is quality time. Involve your family in your work. I do this with my kids. I work most of the time at home which, again, that same CEO was like, you don't work out of your office, you work at home. You have this company and you're at home most of the time. I'm like, yeah, it's my choice. And I have my own little office. I can lock the door, so that is an option if I have to. I have mute. I have all those things that will let me do that at home. And in doing that, I'm involving my kids in my work. And I talk to them like little adults. My son, despite his genetic disorder, is very, very brilliant. And it's a wonderful story in itself and how well he's done. And where I'm on the foundation for Prader-Willi research for his disorder, and it's a good story. But anyway, he's very, very smart. So I can explain what I'm doing exactly to him. And we'll interact just like little professionals. And when I say I'm going to a meeting, I'll say, oh, who are you meeting with? And what were you talking about? Again, he just turned 6. But he just feels like, it's a part. It's a part of, he's involved in Mommy's life, and it's no big deal. It makes it a little easier when, Mommy, will you take us to the zoo, or we want to go do something, and I have to say, oh, I'm sorry, I've got a meeting. Oh, and then they're interested in that. It's not like, oh, Mommy's working again, it's slump off kind of thing. So keep them included. And I always tell my son that I'm going to hire him someday. So he's got a phenomenal memory, and he will remember his doctor's appointments. He will remember anything that's going on. And I just keep telling him, you know what? You got a job, son. You got a job in about 10 years, 15 years, whatever it takes. You have a job. So it makes him feel good. So I include them. And again, always no regrets. That's the big one. Okay, go on to the next one. I'm behind. This is my Did Anybody Die? I have a lot of employees. Actually, I have a lot of employees who are good friends of mine, who I've known for a long time, and I trust. And so we cross the line a little bit in that, boss versus friend. But one of the things I've been known for is that, I don't know how, but that calming effect. Talk me down from the ledge. I'll get the phone call. Okay, talk me off the ledge. And my comment is always, did anybody die? And part of this comes from my son. When he was born with this genetic disorder, he was born in a Navy hospital, and I'm not knocking Navy medicine, although they screwed up my knee too, so that's, but anyway, he was born in a Navy hospital, and when he was first born, he had a little punctured lung, took him to the NICU. All of a sudden he started losing all these reflexes, and pretty much soon he wasn't doing anything. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong, and they're doing all these tests, and they do a CAT scan. And he was 4 days old. I'd gone home, called him back to say, what's the results of this CAT scan? I want to know what's going on. And the guy didn't want to tell me over the phone. I said, no, you need to tell me now, because I'm not driving an hour to Portsmouth, to be told whatever. So he said, well, it looks like a third of his brain is missing. He said that where you should have ridges, it's smooth. And he started going into this whole thing. Okay, all right, okay. Hung up the phone. First thing I did was start researching brain damage. What can I do to fix this kind of thing? Second thing I did, and we started going in there, was to say I'd like an MRI. I want to know the extent of the damage. I also want to figure out what I did wrong. What did I do? Was there something I did to result in this? So we asked for this MRI, and we took him home 4th of July, and we had to do not resuscitate on him because we had friends who had a severely disabled child, and we knew quality of life was not the greatest. And so, and very strong Christian and believe, in that. And so it's in God's hands. We'll put a do not resuscitate on. So we took him home over 4th of July. I called Portsmouth to find out what the results were for the MRI. And over the phone, they said it confirms the same thing, the brain damage and all that. So on the Monday after 4th of July, we went to this home for disabled infants, and there was one bed. Again, we thought, oh, that's divine intervention. There's one bed. It's round-the-clock care. He'll get all this attention. So we show up there, and I'm sitting there, just dropped him off. He's 2 weeks old. It's just horrible. And came back, was sitting in the doctor's office, and this fax came across. The nurse brought it in, put it in front of the doctor, and the doctor looked up and he said, you need to take this do not resuscitate off this child right now. And I was like, well, why? What do you mean? He said, because there's nothing wrong with his brain. This MRI shows you there's nothing wrong with his brain. See, I haven't talked about this in a while, so I probably started crying. But anyway, and so we were like, you got to be kidding me. Are you sure it's his MRI? Are you sure it's? And he said, absolutely positive. There's nothing wrong with his brain. So at that point, we kind of started, all right. And for me, I was like, all right, it's not brain damage. I can deal with anything else. I can handle this. So we started all these tests. And after about 6 weeks, we left him actually in the infant home because they had the round-the-clock, test him, do this blood draw, check for muscle, this and that, all those kind of things that they could check out. And again, we were now away from Portsmouth Naval Hospital. We were over at CHKD, which is the Children's Hospital in Norfolk. So Anyway, make a very long story short, turned out after 6 weeks, we brought him home actually, so it might have been 7. They came back and said he has Prader-Willi syndrome, which is a rare genetic disorder. And actually, if you look at it on the internet, it kind of is a little depressing. It's got all this negative stuff. But again, it was like, I can deal with this. I can fix Prader-Willi syndrome because I didn't know what it was going to do with brain damage. That is what led to Did Anybody Die? Because in those early days, it was kind of like, is he gonna live? And that puts everything in perspective. And I'm sure all of you have stories like that. I mean, whether it's a parent, something happened to a parent, or a sister, or a friend, or anything like that, you just have to put everything in perspective. And you have to keep reminding yourself, because you still do kind of forget, and things get overwhelmed. And that's when maybe that's why I've become the talk me down off the ledge. Because a couple employees will call and they'll say, okay, I just need to talk to you. Like, I've got this, and what about this, and what about that? And it's just like, it's not that big of a deal. Did anybody die? And I also know, I trust the employees, I trust everybody, we work with, we know hard workers, there are some things out of our control, put it in perspective. And I think that's very important for your family. I mean, you have to think, if you had to make a choice, would you choose your business over your family? Never. No way. And if you did, then shouldn't have a family, maybe. But, so I don't say that's a little harsh, but yeah. So that's the Did Anybody Die? Put it in perspective. The days of success if nobody died, and that takes that a little lightly. I don't mean to make that lightly. Really, the days of success if nothing catastrophic happened. And what's catastrophic? I mean, there's truly, for me, the big things were make payroll and be with my family. Those were like the important things. Payroll, because that's other people's families. You don't want to mess with other people's families and other people's money. But those are the key things. That's truly what's most important. Positive thinking is a way of life. I'm also kind of the overly optimistic person, and that's going to drive my husband crazy. Something happens to the car, something happens to whatever. I'm like, it's not a big deal. Oh, it'll be okay, kind of thing. But again, put it in perspective and be positive. And if you're positive, your family will be positive. And that just translates into your business. And again, I think just the positive, optimistic outlook will get you far. Risks are mandatory. There is a risk, really, with putting your family over your business if you're a CEO or if you're starting a business. But that's mandatory. That's life. That's the way it is. And again, be confident in your decision making. Be happy with the decisions you made. No regrets. And be positive. Optimism is contagious. And that's true. I mean, if you are positive and I do that to overcome my husband again sometimes. He's a real laid back, very, he doesn't spool up about much at all. But when he does, we balance each other very nicely because I'm perky, happy, it's okay, it'll be all right. And then pretty soon, he comes down off the ledge. So anyway, and again, lastly, no regrets. There's one more thing I would probably put in there. I was thinking about with the optimism. This is what I grew up with my mother. Say your prayers. That was always her answer. It was never anything like, in depth, like, I'm stressed, I'm worried about whatever. Say your prayers, Carol. Just say your prayers. And she still does that. And my mother works for me, actually. My sister does our payroll. My mother does our accounts payable. My father does our bookkeeping. Again, yeah, we're at 170 employees. I have a few other relatives running around there, too. But and it's worked out quite well because, again, they're people I trust. We're very open, communicate. So when I say family, balancing family and business, truly family is a huge, huge part of my life and a huge part of our business. So. And big, long summary, which I'm not going to really read too much. It's just one other thing to add that I think ties to family that I've talked about, and I've just kind of learned this dealing with other companies. Remove ego and greed from the equation. If you can put aside ego as a CEO or as any running your own company, anything like that, if you can put that aside, and if you can put aside greed, you'll succeed. There's no question. And you have to put those aside if family is going to be important to you and you're going to be able to, again, balance the family. So get those two out of the equation and you'll win. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Did I get you done early?